Hey y'all, it's Phil again. I'm sitting here with my friend Dallas. Dallas, ironically from Texas. All right, Dallas and I, both of us used to be evangelical Christians. What are some of the major reasons why you left Christianity, Dallas?
Oh, you're opening up a can of worms there.
Yes, I am.
Wow, that's going to be I think a long conversation if we're going to get into it. I think, but if I were to kind of create a summation for this, I would have to say that the number one reason is the complete and utter abandonment of reason when you accept faith.
Okay, I certainly agree.
Yeah.
And how has your life been since you left Christianity? How is it to be godless?
You know, I have to admit that when I first left, and again, my deconversion process was very slow.
Right.
It happened over a number of years. As a bit of a background, you know, I was a very devout Christian. In fact, I was a missionary at one point. Studied, you know, biblical Greek and Hebrew, biblical, you know, history in the Middle East,
right.
In the Mediterranean region.
Right.
So, I mean, I had a very strong academic background when it came to Christianity, but at the same time, it was very much experiential. So even though I was a very staunch, academic when it came to biblical studies, I also put a very strong emphasis on relationship with God, because that was the ultimate goal, is to have a eternal, intimate, very personal relationship with the God who created the universe, you know, from that perspective. So to me, I think what was probably the scariest and most devastating aspect of deconversion for me was the fact that I had come to the realization that I was having a relationship with an imaginary friend for the entire time. One that was very intimate.
Right. I agree.
One that was. I mean, I would, you know, play the guitar. I played the guitar. I played gospel music.
He plays it well too.
And I mean, I've toured even playing music in a gospel setting. And actually, music was one of the probably strongest expressions of love that I could have for God. And when you come to the realization that, well, first of all, you know, I have to admit, I honestly don't know, you know, if there's a God or not. I don't say that I'm an atheist. I say that I'm a skeptic. But when you come to the realization that this being or this entity that you're communicating with in your mind, because you're attempting to make communication with them. You know, a lot of Christians actually believe that God doesn't speak to you individually. A lot of them believe that He does. They believe in the still small voice that, of course, the Bible talks about itself. And during the process of deconversion, you just come to this realization that all of this time, you have been that intimate. I mean, it is literally as intimate as a husband and wife.
Right.
You know, in the level of intimacy that you're achieving. I mean, there's no sexual aspect of it, of course.
How many hours a day did you spend in prayer, for example?
I would spend at least 2 hours a day in prayer, at least. But I mean, of course, you're always going through the day, conscientiously addressing God in every scenario, because you try to integrate Him into every thought. You try to integrate Him into, you know, every emotion that you have, because you want everything to be focused on Him, because you believe that if you turn your face toward Him, that you'll become the light of the earth, you know, the salt of the world. So yeah, I would say two hours at least every day in solid focused prayer.
And you felt at that time that God was working in you, and you had God's still small voice.
Well, here's the interesting, this is where the dichotomy comes, actually, what I would say, is that actually my problem was I felt that the more that I pursued Him, the further away I was from actually achieving the goal of being set apart, being sanctified in the Spirit. I mean, it doesn't. Now, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that through that process I was becoming more secular. I mean, that's obviously not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that there were things that, on a personal basis, I did struggle with, anger or even lust, things like this. That you pursue God and you conscientiously invest a lot of energy into a pursuit of God for help in those areas of your life because you want to be a better person for Him. You want to be a better representation of Christianity in the world. But what happens the day that you come to the realization that He's powerless? Because He doesn't have the power to transform you in those areas of your life that you've struggled with, because it's natural. Those tendencies are natural, and you're trying to fight nature through this process. So, yeah, I mean, it's just what really impacted me most, and I think what was probably most difficult for me in the whole deconversion process was, one, losing an intimate friend, and two, realizing that actually I'm not as sinful as I had imagined I was.
Right.
Because I was just acting on natural tendencies.
You're told that after you leave Christianity, you're going to be following your own lust that includes some of the most vile acts you can imagine.
Yeah.
So, but no, after I left Christianity, in my opinion, I became a better Christian. Ironically.
I think I did too. But I don't want to completely discount a lot of progress that I made as a Christian. Because I think that as a Christian, you're taught to be more introspective. You're taught to be more considerate of others. And I do think that because of that, you do actually gain a higher level of, I guess you could say, utility within society. But I don't think that you need God, because I know plenty of secularists and plenty of atheists that are, even I would say, more humanitarian than Christians. I wouldn't say that there's a lot more, but I would just say that you don't have to be in a Christian setting to meet that type of person.
Yeah, because I was figuratively locked up in the house of the Lord for most of my younger life. I didn't get involved in smoking, drinking, premarital sex, those type of things. So I was fairly sheltered from the things that could possibly damage me. So I avoided some of those vices, but at the same time, mentally, I was a wreck. Christianity doesn't give you anything. Doesn't point you at all towards rationality.
Well, and here's something interesting. It's a little bit anecdotal, but when I became a Christian in high school. And before becoming a Christian, I had a pretty troubled life. I had a non-present father, and my mom was constantly working. I was raised in an abusive environment. So of course you have a natural tendency to be sort of dark and morose when you're raised in that type of a situation. And what I found is that when I clung to Christianity, I actually had people who would come up to me afterwards and say, Dallas, you actually don't even look happy.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you too stressed out?
Too stressed out because I was so much under the burden of trying to reform myself. And of course, everyone understands in a Christian context, it's not you doing it yourself. You have to rely on the Spirit to do that work for you. But at the same time, you want to achieve a level that you don't want to struggle with the same things that you've been struggling with up until that point.
And you assume that a level of surrender or devotion to God will bring all the power of God so you can change.
Exactly.
Which it doesn't.
Exactly. It doesn't. There are things that changed in my life, and I think that has a lot more to do with the cultural setting of Christianity, because you're around. It's
social support.
Yeah, social support. There are studies that prove that you become like the people that you spend most of your time with, and if you're around wholesome individuals that have never gone through the type of lifestyle changes.
I noticed you're going bald there.
That's all your fault, man.
Yeah, I know. You gotta stop hanging out with me.
Definitely.